So for Ireland, we're going to cross the little waterway and go to Lindsay Girvan and Ben Cadell, who are located in the Highlands of Scotland in a beautiful, beautiful farm, which they're going to tell you all about, in particular about their sheep and their incredible business that they've created, not just in fashion, but also with the farm and food. And so we look forward to their talk. Lindsay and Ben, welcome back to the World Will Forum. And as a special extra welcome, we welcome Lindsay because you're going to be curating the Scottish Hope Forum later this winter. So we look forward to meeting you again then. So this is an introduction to everybody to get to know you. So enjoy and thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Philippe. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be interesting. And thank you for the invitation for that. But really, thank you so much from both of us at the moment here in Scotland for your invitation, from Lee and yourself, and also when we all gathered together with Isabella Rossellini and Ilaria and Elettra. Amazing time we had. Really, it was total immersion in all things wool and mostly sheep for us. And it was just a fantastic time. So thank you. We're really honoured to be asked to share this little story that we've got. We really wanted to let you see all aspects of the farm. So we're just going to really just let you see and images as we talk about where we are rooted in the land. And I'm Lindsay Girvan. This is Ben Cadell, my husband, and we're going to be talking about our farm and the home of future vintage, which is a very personal story and a little project which is really in its infancy. And we'll be telling you about how it came about and hopefully where it's going. And along the way, we've raised 4 kids, got 2 collie dogs, and have a growing flock of about 250 Shetland sheep. In its heyday, just to tell you a bit about Scotland, it's a lovely view from our farm, but in its heyday,
pictures of us.
Scotland really had the largest spinning mill in the world in its heyday, and that's just a few miles from our farm. And historically, we are steeped in heritage textiles. We've got the wool industry so closely, working so closely with the community in the olden days, producing tweed, tartan, people knitting, and the tweeds and cloths were dyed with natural things like lichen and peat and heather. So they were really reflecting the landscape and of actually what it looks like in Scotland. Clearly, as we've heard over and over, there's been a significant decline in the wool industry in Scotland starting around the mid-50s, 1950s, and the low value of wool, with synthetics and which we all know a lot about. So we've got a lot of mills that have closed and a lot of traditional skills just being really pushed to their limit. So look, just to give a background of the farm itself and the setting for our wool business and the future vintage project, Ben will take you through his general philosophies and regenerative farming practices and his organic farming approach to what we're doing here on the farm, where it all happens with the sheep and the knitting. So over to Ben. I shall slide away while he speaks to you.
Hi, my name's Ben. I was educated in Scotland, proudly and astonishingly. I BSc in rural resources with a heavy focus in agriculture. I moved to Tennessee with my first job and helped some organic growers, some organic veg growers out there who grew beautiful bags of salad greens with peas and nasturtiums and lovely little flowers in them, which they sold at local the farmers market. It was a lovely little Californian, it had a lovely Californian feel to it. It was generous and completely different from anything I'd seen before. It really ignited my interest in organic production. I very fortunately inherited a 280-acre farm in central Scotland. I started managing it about 20 years ago. It had been rented out for 100 years. The land had been worked very hard in a conventional way. There was no intrinsic fertility left in the soil. We were effectively running a hydroponic system. Drainage was broken a block. The 200-year-old water system was almost completely inoperable. and there was no septic tank. Not the easiest way to start a farm, but very liberating in retrospect, with no traditions to keep, no family expectations, no processes to change. So a blank sheet. I gathered a fefew principles along the way. The main one is nature is bountiful, and if treated well, it will always if it's bountiful, but if you treat it well and give back more than you take, it will provide for you very well, as with all relationships. We try and be pragmatic. We grow grass and arable crops, as well as cold weather vegetables. On our farm, we have 250 Shetland ewes producing about 350 kilos of wool, 75 prime lambs for our farm shop. This is done on 80 acres of grass, which we also take a cut of haylage, producing about 500 large brown bales of haylage. We also produce about 25,000 organic vegetable plants on 1 acre of intense cropping. This is all done without chemicals or chemical fertilizer. I build nutrition by composting grass and clover onto the soil. This is then released when we cultivate for our vegetables. This is the same system in which we use for our pastures, but not quite as intensively. We provide habitats with flowers and wildlife strips with feed in it, and also very large hedgerows, and actively managing ditches. In the last 20 years, we've seen many more owls, skylarks, hawks, eagles, swallows, yellowhammers, ladybirds, native bees, snails, and my favorite pet project, which is frogs. And then we come to our lovely Shetland sheep. Their grazing habit is light when food is plentiful. For me, they're great for removing docks and annual arable weeds. They're wonderful in a vegetable rotation. When we renew our pastures with herbal lays, we graze them at the new grass at about 6 to 8 weeks lightly to encourage tillering, and it encourages also root growth. Traditional thinking is that sheep grazing on a field is nutritionally neutral. They don't take anything out, so nothing needs to be added. I've found this not to be true. So we put in breaks and we mow for nutrition, and it always helps. Nature is bountiful, but you have to give back more than you take. So for me to have a lovely clop of wool from our farm feels so intrinsically rooted in the land and its heritage. However, I'm getting carried away and need to pass you on to Lindsay. I would not still have a farm if it wasn't for this wonderful woman sitting next to me, who'll be speaking. When we met, I used to go and pick up rotting vegetables to feed my pigs many years ago. And we've worked very hard on our projects. We enjoy a challenge and have come a very long way together. Our journey is not becoming any less surreal. And thank you so much for inviting us to speak. I'll now pass you on to Lindsay to talk all things woolly.
So a little bit about me briefly. I know we don't have, crazy dog, very long to speak. So I'm really going to speak about, quickly, I was raised in London by Scottish parents, an architect, and a mother who was an amazing textile collector and maker, both adventurers, travelers, lovers of all things creative, and really instilled in me the value of hand making. I sewed from the age of about 5, and the necessity of mending, which it was at home, and a real love of natural fibres. So Scotland called, and I went off to university up in Aberdeen, and I've never gone back to London since. But after graduating, I ended up on the Isle of Skye, an amazing, amazing place where I worked in the handmade knitwear industry for around a decade. And then I moved on to do an MBA, and along the way, for various reasons, and because I was constantly drove me mad as tree hugger, I decided I had to get into the organic world. And so I set up an organic food business that's called Grow Wild Organics. And I did that 26 years ago, actually. It still survives, and it thrives today on the farm in the form of a farm shop. We don't make deliveries anymore, but it's actually through Grow Wild that I met Ben, as he was saying, picking up our grot to feed his pigs. Anything we couldn't put in a box to deliver out to people, he was picking up for his pigs. And and along the way, of course, if I hadn't met Ben, I really wouldn't have understood my utter love for sheep, which is just a wild and wonderful thing. There was a pivotal moment in my life which really happened after a conversation I had with Deborah, who keeps horses on the farm actually, but at that time also kept sheep. And she'd spent 2 years collecting all her fleece. She had piled it into a big trailer. She'd driven it up an hour up the road to Perth, to the auction, to the wool auction, and she sold it, but she was given £2.50 for the lot in the auction. And honestly, I was horrified. I couldn't believe that it could be possible. I was raised with, valuing natural fibers, wool we knitted with. I just couldn't understand that this was a possibility. So I decided I had to do something about that and to try and give wool a value that was a tangible value that I could relate to. I really wanted other people to as well. So how was I going to go about this? I first of all decided I'd find out all I could about wool, and then also to sort of explore all the different ways that I could use the wool that meant that I would be able to make products that I could sell that I myself would want and value. I was given a mantra many years ago of don't give people what you yourself want and you'll never go wrong in business. You're not going to be the only person. And I've kind of stuck to that. So I also at this time had to really reach out from our farming world. Ben and I were quite often found sort of in the sleet picking kale in the rain and the sleet in the winter, and had done a lot of that for 15, 20 years. So I had to really kind of get myself out of that headspace to think about how I could create something that, in a completely different universe, really, where we were then talking about wool and textiles and a very different kind of world, a different kind of valuing. We value the organic. This is a different kind of valuing of sustainability, all under the same umbrella. So first of all, I had to find out about what I needed to do, and we needed to look at the sheep we had. So we simplified our flock. We moved from the mixed flock of Blackies and Herdwicks, and we moved to Shetlands only. And they're a small breed, and I myself can actually deal with them. They grow to about 45 kilos, so I can handle them. These are pictures of our daughters, actually. And each, a sheep can produce about a jumper. They're not huge sheep. So that gives you a sort of scale of them. They're really a lovely rare breed, but no longer endangered, but we still need to look after them and preserve them and admire them because they're hardy, wily little creatures. They're great mums, and they really have the softest of Scottish wools. They're quite wonderful. They are very independent, but they are a lot of hard work. They are a responsibility. We walk around them every day. We deal with issues that come up. We deal with their feet. If their horns are growing in funny directions, we deal with them. Fly strike is a horrible thing that we have to deal with, a nasty thing that shepherds and farmers have to deal with. And then, of course, lambing. It's a big old time. It's a beautiful and wonderful and exhausting time. And we only really intervene if we have to. And mostly vets give us the sort of empower us to do what we need to do. But sometimes we have to give them a call. This year we had cesarean born in the field, so we needed a vet for that, Ben at one end, me at the other, but the vet doing his job in the middle. Both fantastic, and Caesar lives on forever with us. So they're very much worth it, and they're amazingly worth it. In fact, I think that is Caesar, that somebody who came and bought a jumper was cuddling. So whilst sort of building the flock, also I really had to go back to basics and decide what could I do with this wonderful wool? How was I going to deal with it from beginning to end? So I joined the Guild of Weavers and Spinners and Dyers in Edinburgh and learned how to spin, starting with a drop spindle. I'm never going to retire on that skill, but I do have a real understanding of it now. which was important to me. And I took classes on how to learn how to weave with a local wonderful guy, James Donald. And then I also took classes to use to learn how to use a hand knitting machine, so I could understand that process with the wonderful Maya Nugran, who works with me still today. So I kind of gathered all the skills I needed along the way and sharpened my pencil with applying my brain to get my creativity going. And I really had to fast track my learning as well, took some courses and met some amazing people along the way. So really just 2 years ago, I launched Future Vintage. And over those couple of years, I've gathered a really wonderful small team. I've got knitters who have arrived with textile qualifications, 2 with masters. Everybody has come with enthusiasm and skills. We've taught 2 people how to use the knitting machines and the linking machine already. And then every year, and this I like to sort of have to create an opportunity for a textile graduate to come and work with us every year. This year I have the lovely Letty. Last time I had the wonderful Dora, who's now in Paris doing a fashion master's. This time I've got Letty, and she's come to me, and I'm hoping that as well as knitting with me, she's going to learn the business of how to be able to make the whole world go round in the way of manufacturing, handmade or not, and also to give her the opportunity to use the studio to do her own stuff if she wants to do that too, and use it as a launching pad for her own brand if she wants to go down that way. Really also I've had the ever important help to get here. I also needed to have the help to be branded properly, to I needed a good website, and I've now got somebody who helps me with my social media and writing, because it's a full-time job, that, which I just don't really have time to do. So really I wanted to create a completely circular, sustainable brand where garments start with us on the farm and they finish, the finished product like that just ends up on the farm, starts with the sheep, ends up as a product. And I wanted to, along the way, preserve the art of handmaking and the Scottish traditions, not having waste, keeping all the textile skills going and putting old machinery back into use. So I hope in a way I've achieved that with each individual piece that we produce. It's really, we make it and by hand, and it results from the time spent and the dedication of the handmaker, taking care every time they make a piece without cutting corners. The pieces are all about the fundamental knowledge and tradition that's embedded in the actual garment when you end up putting it on your body. And it's about the design, the material, it's about being connected back to the land, which people say when they put it on, they feel that way, actually. So I love the circularity of what we do. There is traceability, there's transparency along the supply chain, and everything we do is to be seen. The sheep are reared, grown, the wool is grown on the farm on their backs, the shearing happens on the farm, the gathering and sorting of the fleeces happens on the farm, the creating and the making and the finishing all happens in our little studio on the farm. We're powered by solar panels, so we're even the electricity is that we get from the sky is powering our linking machine, which is really lovely. We've got one missing link, which is the wool processing in Scotland. This is, which is the wool processing for an outfit of my size. That's the scouring side, and the carding and the spinning is what's missing. But as somebody pointed out in Rome, we do actually have that possibility in the UK. So the Natural Fibre Company have been doing that for us, but they're down in Cornwall. It's a shame that nothing's happening in Scotland for us anymore. But we're pleased to be able to keep it all within the UK. We only knit with the wool that we're producing on the farm, so the pieces are limited, and each year's wool crop is called a vintage. We don't use dyes, and each dye lot is limited. So when the wool's finished, the wool's finished, and we just need to spend that time doing other things. There's lots to do. I think this year we're going to sell out of our crop. And we have to plan 2 years in ahead. So really, we're on to, this is my last sort of little bit. I've got Ben telling me that I've got to hurry up here. So to the future and hope. I think there is a lot of hope around wool in the future in a wider sense. I mean, all these people who are in this amazing webinar, there are activists and creators and farmers and makers, and we're all so passionate about this. We really are. So I think, there is real hope for that going forward. Wool will play a part in the future. I think as long as it goes hand in hand with innovation, and so, with interest and livelihoods to be had, if those are there to be had, they will happen. I think in future vintage, I have these qualities already in my team, and I feel that there are champions in the current team who can take this forward. They're young people, they're all in their 20s and 30s. And I think these are the people who can take the project forward. I think these are the people who can inspire the next generation. These are the people who are going to train other knitters and linkers and create, they're the people who are learning from the ground up with us. They're out with the sheep, they're out with the sorting the fleece. These are the people who are going to take this wool project forward and hopefully gather together with other projects at the same time. So I put my faith in these great people to take wool forward into the future. And our story is but a little jigsaw in the much bigger woolly picture. So thank you for allowing us to share our little story. Philip, I'm just delighted to see you clothed from head to toe in future vintage, as we are on brand, as Ben is. So thank you for listening.
I'm wearing some of the pieces, which I think about 2 weeks ago were probably still on the sheep.
You're probably not wrong.
It's quite remarkable. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's just so remarkable to be able to wear obviously a fiber which is not dyed and just takes the identity of the sheep from which it's come. It's really a whole different experience, even in black, everybody that works in fashion. So Lindsay, we saw you at Fashion Week here in Paris about a week and a half ago. So I have a website online for those that would like to order pieces. I know they can also come and visit you because you're opening a shop.
Absolutely.
So soon the shop will be ready and people can even visit you and try them on there, which I'm sure they can already do if they come. Yep. So thank you so much to both of you for your beautiful work, and we're going to travel again.